Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Disruptor discussions. I'm so excited to have you here and to have Crista Grasso, our guest. I will be introducing her in a moment. I will start by giving you guys a little background about what we're doing here. My name is Jennifer Fry, and I'm the CEO of Appreciated Asset Business Solutions. We create, build, and fill sales pipelines for industry disruptors. So I figured today I'd spend some time telling you guys about how this whole disruption thing came up and why this is such a big focus for us at Appreciated Asset, and why I think it should be a big focus for all of you in your own businesses. I realized a few years ago that as we were growing our business, the best work that we did, the best results we got, and the best relationships we had with our clients were clients that were disrupting their own industry. Clients that were doing things above and beyond status quo, really standing outside of what's expected in the industry, and clients who were brave and bold enough to say, just because it's always been done this way doesn't mean that's the way we're going to do things. So it's typically a client who is really open to collaboration, to thinking outside the box, and most importantly, businesses that are committed to providing the best client experience for their clients as possible. Our mission at Appreciated Asset is to create a ripple effect for incredible business solutions and helping them grow. And our purpose is to create a stage. Welcome to this stage. Our purpose is to create a stage to highlight those disruptors and really honor them for their courage to stand out and be bold in their messaging and their delivery. So back to the disruptor. I was always called disruptive as a kid. It was never a compliment. But the things that I was doing is I was always innovating. I was always looking at making processes better, creating better systems, whether that was at school or at home, and knowing that, again, just because that status quo had always been there did not mean that's the way I felt like it had to be going forward. So I guess in a way, I've always been a disruptor. Again, typically it wasn't really seen as a compliment or as a strength, but I really learned to use that as my superpower, not just for myself and our business, but for our clients as well. The Disruptor Discussions is a stage that we have created where we spend an hour every single week with a masterclass where I bring on a different expert to talk about their solution, their expertise, and how they are able to create more revenue in businesses as well. That's what we're here to do, is help businesses grow. And there's a lot of other ways to do that beyond a intentional sales strategy. So I've met incredible people over the years as I've been building this business, and I really wanted to share them with the world because I felt like having a stage and having a platform to present these ideas, but doing it from the perspective of how does your expertise build more revenue for a business? Because the bottom line is there are zero problems in a business that more revenue cannot solve. Mostly in life too, but definitely in business, there are zero problems. Every single business issue, challenge, problem that you're dealing with right now can be solved with creating more revenue. And we're here today and every single week to show you other ways that you can do that. So I'm going to hand things over to Crista in a moment. I will also tell you guys some news for us at Appreciated Asset. I'm going to start sharing a little more about what we've got going on. We did bring on 2 new team members for Appreciated Asset in the last few weeks, which has been really exciting. We've got a new appointment setter on board, Vanessa, who's amazing. And Wendy is our new client success manager, which is really, really wonderful for us. And for our client experience. We're thrilled to have them both. And YouTube, please like and subscribe to YouTube. Max has really been enjoying watching my subscribers grow every week, slowly but surely giving me a lot of flack and threatening to unsubscribe from my channel every time I ask him to do anything. So if you guys could help me buffer Max from threatening to remove his subscription from my channel, I would super appreciate that. So like and subscribe, it's at Appreciated Asset. Okay, so I am excited to introduce Crista Grasso to you. Crista is with the Lean Out Method, and we met A few years ago through a networking group that I'm a huge fan of. You guys will hear me talk about it pretty often, called the Dames, which is an international women's networking group that I've been a member of for a few years now. And Krista and I, when we met, not only did we have the New England thing in common, which I always love, but I loved her really practical way of approaching scaling, of putting processes and systems in place. But not just that, I love the way she talks to people rather than at them. She really is able to simplify strategy for businesses. And what we're going to be talking about today is how to scale your business and avoid burnout, which I think is something that we've all felt in some form or fashion at some point over the years of running our businesses. So here is her bio, and then I will let her take it away and share her brilliance. Crista Grasso is the CEO and founder of the Lean Out Method and creator of the Lean Scaling System. She partners with visionary CEOs and their teams to navigate through the messy middle of multi-six to multi-seven figures and scale in a way that allows them to live a rich, fulfilled life while leading a high impact plus a high profit business. Through private advisory, her signature Simplify to Scale mentorship experience, she helps businesses remove unnecessary complexity, up-level their business operations, and build out their lean dream team, including a right-hand person that they can trust so the day-to-day is no longer dependent on the CEO. Oh my gosh, tell me everything. I'm so excited for you to be here, and it's really amazing how this whole series has worked, that everyone I bring on, I have so many questions. I need this. We all need this, right? Because we didn't get into business to create golden handcuffs, which is where so many of us find ourselves. And then we get out and get in and get out, and it's just a bit of a roller coaster. And so I'm so excited for you to share with us, Krista, how we can get off the ride and really create a way to scale our businesses without burnout. So without further ado, I will hand things over to you, and cannot wait to hear you share your brilliance. And you guys, if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A, and I'll make sure to be getting to those as soon as Krista is done.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share a few slides with you all. And while I'm kind of pulling these up, you said something that was so powerful. And I love when you talk about the fact that there's very few problems that more revenue can't solve, which I agree with fully. I think that's brilliant. And I think the challenge with more revenue is a lot of people think that to get more revenue, they have to do more and work more. And that can frequently be what leads to burnout. So that's a lot of what I'm going to walk through today. There's kind of three core areas that I want to touch on. The first, just level setting on what causes burnout. Because if we want to avoid it and make sure we're scaling in a way where we're not burning out, I think we want to think through what actually is triggering that to happen so we can avoid those behaviors or course correct those behaviors. Then I want to look at, is your business scalable, right? Sometimes we're trying to scale something that isn't yet scalable, and that can cause burnout because we're working much harder than we need to for something that's never going to take us where we want to go. And then finally, if we are scaling, we are doing this beautiful thing of bringing our beautiful vision to life. How can we do it in a way that's actually sustainable, where we're not burning ourselves out or we're not burning our team out along the way? So these are the three core areas that we're going to talk about. And the very first I want to level set on is what causes burnout. And I think when most people think of burnout, the main thing that they think of and that they tend to anchor on is overworking. You're working too much. And working too much absolutely can cause burnout. But if you think about your schedule, if you think about your day and you look tomorrow and you've got a 10-hour day planned for tomorrow, but those 10 hours are with people that you absolutely love working with. It is doing work that is 100% in your zone of genius. It is stuff that you could do all day long and barely even recognize that the time has passed. Versus tomorrow is filled with nothing but annoying meetings, tech things, and administrative things that you have to do, and all the things that completely drain the life out of you, right? What is that day going to feel like? If you repeat those days over and over and over again, What does it feel like? So sometimes we think of overworking, and overworking is absolutely a key part of it. We need space for ourselves, for self-care, for self-development, for the things that fuel us outside of our business, even if our business is a big thing that does fuel us. But what I find to be an equally important cause of burnout is misalignment. Because really, it's where we're spending our time and who we're spending our time with that has a big impact on how we feel and what we're doing. When Jennifer shared my intro, she shared I talked about the fact that one of the things I'm super passionate about is helping people to live what I call a rich, fulfilled life. And I think the fulfilled piece of that is really, really important in business. And we want to make sure that we're doing things where we have space for things that are fulfilling outside of our work, but we're also spending our time with the people and on the things that are fulfilling to us within our work as well. And that I think is the key to avoiding burnout. So yes, you want to make sure that you're controlling how much you're working, but you also want to be investing your time in the things that are your zone of genius and the things that fuel you instead of drain you. Anything that's outside of that, somebody else can and probably should do. So, our work to me, I feel like it needs to fall into these two categories. The things we spend our time on, it should be alignment based, meaning it's things that are actually going to take us where we want to go in the business. It's things that are aligned with the vision and the goals that we have when we look to the future and we look to what's next. And it's alignment based in the sense that it's the things that we should be doing, our zone of genius, the things that fuel us. So I think that's the first category of things we want to make sure we're investing our time in. And then the next piece of that is our work should be capacity based. And so what I see happen so often that leads to burnout is you've got this list of things to do, and it's this never ending list of things to do. And you just kind of start your day, you work until you're out of time or you're kind of out of steam, and you go to sleep and you wake up the next day and you start over. And there's no real capacity to it. Whereas if you know that you want to work a 4-day work week, if you know you want to work a 40-hour work week, whatever that looks like for you, you want to do all of your planning, all of your commitments, everything working backwards from the capacity that you actually want to work so that you don't end up consistently overworking, right? We always have those periods where unexpected things happen. That's fine. That's life. That's kind of just business. But generally speaking, we want to go into a week with a really high level of confidence that we're focused on the right things. Those things are aligned and that we're going to be able to get those things done within the capacity that we have. And this extends to our team as well. So to me, that's the first piece of this, right? Really making sure that we are putting the right practices in place and the right behaviors in place to avoid burning out by working on the right things and by trying not to overwork. But the next thing is you can't scale without burnout if you don't have a business that's currently scalable. And a lot of times, because scale is kind of a new buzzword, right? It used to be grow. Now people tend to be talking about scale even more. And so people are very focused on scaling and very quick to try to scale their business. And I'm all about scaling. I mean, it's what I teach people, absolutely. But there's a few things that are really important that you need to have in place in order for it to support you instead of burning you out. And we're going to talk about those next. But the very first thing is your business needs to be scalable. And here's what I mean by that. Scalable business model is one where you can continue to grow. You can continue to expand your impact, expand your revenue, expand the number of clients that you're working with and money that you're bringing in without a corresponding increase in the time and expenses it takes to deliver on that. And so frequently, if you think about it, right, let's say that today you have 100 clients. Well, if you were to up that to 200 clients, and that would cause you to double the amount of time that you have to work, if that would cause you to have to double the amount of expenses that you have in the business, that's not scalable. That's growth, but it's not scalable. But if you could go from 100 clients today to 200 clients tomorrow, and there's very minimal or incremental increase to the amount of time that you have to put in or the amount of expense and tooling and all of that to support it, that's a sign that what you have is scalable. And that's ultimately what we really want. And so I want to do a little exercise here. So get out your notebook, or if you're listening in the car, then kind of think through this one. But there's two questions that I want you to answer. When you think about the vision that you have for your business and where you want to take your business, let's say in the next 5 to 10 years, what is your financial target? What size of business do you want? Do you want $1 million business, a $5 million business, a $50 million business, right? $500,000 business? We all have different goals. But what is that financial target that you want for your business? And then I want you to think about what is the value of your signature offer? And you might sell multiple things, but really, if you think about your one core signature offer, what would the value of that be if somebody paid in full, or the average amount that people tend to pay you for it if you do like a retainer basis? And what we're going to do is we're going to do a little math here. So let's assume, for example's sake, that the vision for the business is $5 million and the value of your signature offer is $5,000. We're going to do this for some easy math. Well, that would mean that in order to be able to support that vision, you would need to be able to serve 1,000 clients per year. And now this isn't about precision. This is more an exercise in recognizing where you have things in the business to really help yourself be more scalable. So don't worry about, well, what if somebody joins in October instead of January? Like, don't worry about any of that. Just kind of do the general math to say, here's where I want to be. Here's what, the value of my core offer is. How many people would I need to serve in a year? And in this example, it's 1,000. Well, let's say today you serve 100 clients. Well, that means you would have to 10x what you're doing in order to ultimately hit the vision that you have in your business. And so, what is that for you? What does that look like for you? And what is the initial reaction? How do you feel about it? Is it really exciting? Or is it really, oh no, right? Like if I were to 10x my business, what would that really look like? And so I want you to imagine 6 months from now, maybe even the end of this year, right? You have everything in place. You have some amazing, brilliant opportunity where you're in front of your ideal target market who has the burning problem that you are the person to solve for them, right? And so you have this incredible opportunity where this could be feasible, where by the end of this year, you could actually 10x your results or whatever that percentage is to you. A good thing to think about is what would fall apart? Where are the constraints in what you currently do? A lot of times, where are the constraints? Right? Maybe we moved from a one-on-one model to more of a scalable model, which is amazing, but maybe we still do one-on-one calls with people, or maybe we still handle too many of the sales calls. I might know somebody who could help with that. Um, or, maybe there's too many things that we personally have dependent on us where we're going to hit a ceiling far before we're able to hit the revenue target that we have because of the time constraint. So think about what is that constraint in the business when it comes to you and your time, and think about what are the other constraints in the business. And most people think, oh, well, if I want to 10x my revenue, I just need to focus on more marketing and sales. And yes, absolutely, you need that increased visibility. You need the increased conversions. You need all those things to happen in order for that to be feasible. But exponential growth and all of that gets really glamorized. But what most people kind of forget about is that the business needs to be able to handle that growth. The business needs to have the right systems and the right structure in place to be able to deliver the exceptional client experience, to be able to do and, deliver on the promises that you made while still being able to run the business without burning out yourself and your team. So you want that ecosystem, and that is so incredibly powerful. So there is a framework that I talk about all the time. If you ever listen to anything I do, you will hear me say SPSTI all of the time. And so I'm going to walk you through at a high level what this looks like, because this to me is how you set your business up to be able to scale sustainably and to be able to sustain the level of growth that hopefully you have ahead of you this year. So the very first thing, the first letter is S for strategy. And this is when you look at your offer suite. Do you have an offer suite that supports where you want to take your business? Or is it time to maybe make some adjustments in how you package or how you price or how you deliver your offers so that they can be more scalable? Next, once you have that in place, you've got the right business model, you've got the right offers, you feel really good about the pricing of your offers, you feel like that's solid. Well, then how are you going to get there? What does it look like from a plan perspective? What do you need to do behind the scenes in the business? And what do you need to do from a marketing perspective, right? How are you going to actually achieve those goals that you have? the revenue targets that you have. Next is your systems. This tends to be where things fall apart. So the next two, systems and team, they're very tightly coupled, and this tends to be where things fall apart, right? You've got a great strategy, you know where you're going, you've got the right offers, cool. You've got a good plan, you feel pretty solid about it. Well, do you have the right people to support you and actually making that real? And do you have the right systems to support them to be able to generate repeat and consistent results in the business? So important to have these. And then finally, insight. Are you able to clearly see what's working and what's not? So you can do more of what's working and amplify it, and you can let go of or lean out what isn't working so that you're staying laser focused on what's actually going to deliver the results that you want. So this is SPSTI, Strategy Planning Systems Team and Insight. And this is really the core of what it takes to scale sustainably and ultimately scale without burnout. And so if you think when I was talking earlier and I gave the example 10x and you're like, yeah, that's fine, but that's way too big of a jump. There's no way I'm going to 10x in 6 months. Well, you might actually have a realistic goal of trying to double your revenue in the next 6 months. Well, ask yourself the exact same question. What would fall apart? Where are you a constraint, or what are your constraints? And what would you need to focus on next in order to do that? And so I'm going to share with you a few things about sustainable scaling, and then we're going to wrap this up, and I'm super excited to take your questions. So I hope you're putting all those in the Q&A box so that I can answer those for you. But one of the other keys to being able to scale sustainably is you have to simplify first. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is they equate scaling to more. And as a result, they end up doing more and they end up scaling the wrong things. Because here's the thing. Scaling is an amplifier, and it is an equal opportunity amplifier. It will amplify whatever you currently have, whether that is good or whether that is bad. And so you want to be really clear on what it is that you want to amplify so you're not inadvertently amplifying and scaling noise and complexity and overwork and overwhelm and issues and all of the things that you do not want more of in your business. You just want to be scaling what's working. And this to me, we do this movement all the time. So if you're watching, do this with me. In order to scale, you want to simplify first. You're trying different things, you're experimenting with different things, you're trying to find out what works. And at some point, you get to the pinch point in the middle and you're like, this is it. This is what I want to go all in on. And that's where things flip. And all of a sudden, you are trying to amplify that. You're not trying to scale at the widest point where you've got all the things and you're doing all the things. Unsustainable, and it's not going to get you the results that you want. It will definitely get you burnout, though, which is absolutely what we don't want. You want to simplify first and then flip it. And that's where you scale. That's where you amplify. That's what lets you create the space to be able to scale. And so to break SPSTI down into kind of like super basic terms, it's the right things at the right time, done in the right way, with the right people supporting you, generating the right results. That's ultimately what we want in our business. And when you can simplify first, when you can lean out, which is really just simplifying, it's eliminating everything that you don't need in the business. That's what will let you get time back. Is what will let you reduce your expenses, which increases your profit margins. And ultimately, that's what will allow you to avoid burnout as you're scaling your business. So you want to simplify first, then you want to scale, and that is the order that you want to do it in. And from there, I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to turn it back over to you, Jennifer, and see what we got for questions.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I certainly have some questions. And guys, again, please put any questions that you may have for Crista in the chat. Not in the chat, in the Q&A section. Before I've got 3 questions that I always ask, but before I go there, I've got a couple things based on what you were saying that I'd love some clarity on. You started off by talking about burnout, right? That's what we're here to really talk about, how to like eliminate, avoid, or just break free from that cycle. What are some common misconceptions about red flags for burnout?
So I think a lot of times people wait until it's too late. And I call it little b burnout and big B burnout. And a lot of times people avoid the little b warning signs and they
Mhm.
end up in full on big B burnout.
Right.
And at that point, that's where you like need time away from your business to recover. And you don't want to get yourself to that point. So sometimes we think of being really exhausted and all of that. Yeah, absolutely. But more importantly, what I find is you start to lose your focus. Things that you used to be able to do really quickly, all of a sudden you can't do. You kind of lose time. And that's a sign that maybe you're doing too much or maybe you're not doing the right things. You end up quick to be frustrated. Like the littlest things really, really frustrate you in a way that they wouldn't normally. So you're more irritable, right? It's like it's almost subtle changes in your personality and in I find for me, when I'm getting there, I don't sleep as well. And when I'm not sleeping as well, it amplifies all of those other things in a really bad way. Right. And so it's like almost those subtle little cues. But the biggest one is Sunday night is here. You're getting ready to kick off the new week. How do you feel about it? Do you feel really excited about it? Can you like not wait? Like when I am like on and doing all the things that I want to do, just try to pull me away from my computer, right? Even on the weekends, I want to be working. I force myself to take time because I know that I need the protected space, but I want to be working. But if you're looking at your calendar and you're like,
Yeah.
that is a sign that you are probably in little b burnout or you've got some serious misalignment going on that very well could lead you there.
Right. And the danger that I see, with this big B burnout of when you're saying you've got to take time away from your business is usually your business isn't in such great shape that you have the privilege to walk away, right? Because if that kind of stuff is happening, there's probably fires going on inside your organization,
Yep.
where again, it's like golden handcuffs. Like you want to get away, you need to, but you can't because of your responsibilities. So I think those little red flags are really important to pay attention to so it doesn't get to that point. When you're talking about the simplify to amplify, I will show you what a good student I am. What it really made me think of is something that we talk to our clients a lot about, which is niching down their ideal client profile, right? A lot of times we'll talk to people and they're like, oh, we work with anyone who or anyone that. And so that's kind of what we do is we help them simplify instead of everyone up here. And for us, again, it was like identifying our ideals really helped us amplify our growth because once we realized that it was disruptors, right? B2B professional services, but really ones that are disrupting their industries. That's how we simplified who we work with. And I think taking that and putting it on every other facet of your business, that's something that I really haven't done. So thank you for that, because it's super interesting. And I saw it so clearly in the way we've identified our ICP that it never occurred to me to look at other places in the business. All right, I'm going to ask you my questions, and then we've got some questions starting from the group. So I'm excited. All right, first question is how does your expertise bring more revenue into a business?
Yeah, I mean, I think based on what we just walked through, you could kind of see a few areas where not only does it bring in more revenue, but it increases your profit margin. And
Mm,
revenue is amazing, and we want to bring in the revenue, and there's nothing sexier than seeing that number double. But a lot of times, what I see, especially when people are in that period of rapid growth, is if they're not watching their expenses going up at the same time, they can actually sometimes take a hit on profit margin, even though the revenue is up, right? And so I think that's where scaling sustainably is so incredibly important because when you have that focus on sustainability, yes, you're avoiding burnout. Yes, you're avoiding all those things, but you're also setting yourself up to have a really healthy profit margin. And when you are scalable, every new dollar that you bring in does not demand more work from you. And it actually ends up being easier to bring those things in. So I always tell people, even if you're not at a place yet in your business where you are scaling, you want to be thinking about scalable growth. You want everything that you're focused on to be through that scalable
Yes.
lens of how can I bring in more without it costing me more time, more expense. And it's you want to create leverage in what you're doing. So I think what I end up doing that's a little bit different and what helps people generate more revenue is I lean out everything that does not matter. And when you get rid of all that noise, you can actually see the things that are working so that you can amplify them and you can scale them. But also, it ends up giving a much higher profit margin because all of the stuff that doesn't matter is gone and you're laser focused in on the things that do matter.
Amazing. How would you say that you are a disruptor in your space?
Oh gosh. I mean, I do things very different from so many people. If you look at a lot of the scaling frameworks that are out there, if you look at a lot of the planning frameworks and system frameworks, even the frameworks for offer suites and business models and all of that, a lot of them tend towards complexity. They tend towards more. A lot of the scaling systems on the market are very, very much rooted in bigger businesses, and somebody has taken that and tried to force fit it into a small business where it just does not work. So what I do is very simple. It is rooted in being simple and being sustainable, but it's also done with a small business in mind. And it's able to scale with the business, right? The way, if you just think of planning for a moment, the way you plan when you're a solopreneur, very different than the way you plan when you have a team of freelancers supporting you, and then more different again when you have a team and a bigger team of full-time employees. So the things you do need to be contextually aligned with where you're at in the business, where you want to go next, and it needs to be able to scale with you. And that is what I do. And all of the work that I do with my clients is it's not just helping them figure out what they need now, but it's putting things in place that will take them where they want to go and grow and scale with them. And so that is kind of the backbone of everything I do in all of my frameworks.
I love it. I love it. Last question, and then I'm going to move on because we've got some questions from the group. What is the number one thing that we can do today? What's the step? And guys, I just also want to say this. The most feedback I get from people who attend, this is their favorite question and their favorite part. So I'm so excited that we do this every week. What is the number one step that we can all take today based on this information that today we can implement in the next couple hours that will drive more revenue for the business? What is it? What are we doing?
I'm going to give you two things. I'm going to give you
Okay.
something that you can do that will take you about 30 minutes. And I think it is one of the most valuable 30 minutes you will ever spend in your life. So
I'm in.
no cliffhanger or anything. And then I'll give you an actual practical tip that is what I do anytime I want to bring in
Okay.
revenue in the business that works really well. Um, so the first things
Do it.
first is I guarantee right now, when you look at where you're spending your time, no matter how discerning you are with your time and no matter how intentional you are with your time, there's probably things that you're investing time in that are not directly contributing to bringing revenue into the business, short term or long term, or that are things that somebody else could be doing or that do not need to be done at all. And all of those things do lead to burnout, do lead to overwork, do lead to misalignment, right? So it kind of fits with everything that we were talking about. But if you could free up time in your schedule right now to do more of what you already know works and what you already know drives revenue in your business, right? That right there is going to have a pretty big impact long term, but it could have a big impact as in bringing in more revenue this week. So here's what I want to share with you. It is a technique I developed called Chuck. And Chuck stands for cut, hold, change, keep. And I'm going to show you a visual here. Hopefully this comes up. This is in my planner. So it's really simple. You could draw this. It's 4 boxes. Cut, hold, change, keep. That's it. And what I want you to do is I want you to look at all of the activities that you have that you are currently doing. And I recommend you have your team do this as well, because you don't want to pay for your team to be doing things that don't need to be done either, or that aren't a priority right now. And you want to run everything that you're doing through 4 questions to figure out if it's something that can be cut because you don't need it at all. Maybe it's something that's important, but you don't need to be doing right now. So you could put it on hold to create space for the things that are important right now. Is it something that's working brilliantly and you've got nothing at all to change about it? You want to just keep on doing it? Great. Or is it something that you know has so much potential in the business, but you are not yet getting the level of results from it that you want? What can you do to change it? And that is usually where the magic is in your business, and where those optimizations can end up leading to a lot of increased revenue. And so here's your 4 categories and your 4 questions. The very first one is return on investment. Is it providing a good enough return on the time, money, and energy investment that you're putting into it? The next is alignment. When you look at where you're going next in the business, is it going to take you there and support it? Or is it something that you're doing simply because you always did it and you're a little too afraid to let it go? But it's actually more of a time suck and an expense suck, and it's not supporting where you're trying to take things in the business. That can be a hard one, but if you're honest and if your team's honest, there's a lot of good stuff that you could find there. So that is ROI, that is alignment. Next is fulfillment. Do you actually enjoy doing it? Is it aligned to your zone of genius? And if not, is there somebody else today who can take it? And if not, how can you find somebody to take it?
Right.
And then finally, investment. And investment isn't financial, it's investment in something that you can do that will pay off in the future. So networking, building relationships, things like that don't usually give you an immediate return, but they do over time result in clients, referrals, just really amazing, brilliant people that you get to have conversations with, right? So that is Chuck. And if you want a printable template, it's leanoutmethod.com/Chuck, and you can grab that. It's free and you can print that off. I recommend you use it every 30 days in your business, but it'll take you about 30 minutes. And I highly recommend that you do that, because it will give you back some time, and it should give you back time right away. And then with that time, here's the second thing. This is the thing that I think you should do. And what I do anytime I want to bring in revenue in my business, I talk to people. I know that sounds silly, but literally, I will send someone a message and be like, hey, I was thinking of you. How are you? And I don't do this with the intent of them hiring me or anything. I do this because I was genuinely thinking of them. But when I get too busy, or when I'm putting time on things that don't really matter, I skip connecting with people. And
Yes.
every time I reconnect with people, I immediately end up, oh, you know what? I've been meaning to reach out to you. Or, oh, I knew that there's a reason that you reached out to me. I was just having a conversation with someone about scaling. I'm going to connect the two of you. And it's you're not reaching out with the intent of hire me and send me money or do whatever, but you're reaching out to actually connect. And that always inevitably leads to revenue. It happens almost every single time. And when things start to dip in my business, I usually notice that I've been too behind the screen and I've not been spending enough time connecting with people, either through messages or through actually hopping on a Zoom call with them.
I really love that, because the other benefit you get from that is it raises your vibe, right? It raises your vibration when you show up and show up for people that you care about, and really reach out to them to check in with them, see how they are. And when you're able to do that, you get in that higher vibe, and then it just keeps you up there. So it keeps raising. Connection is obviously a really pretty big theme in my life, personally and professionally. And you're 100% right that it's just showing up more than not, and we can get so task heavy. Okay, let's get to some questions. So Kim Russo says, oh, Kim, this is such a run on. I'm going to work on this one. All right. Love you, Krista, obviously.
Hi,
I'm
Kim.
in
Love you
it
too.
now and simplifying to scale, but any tips for things to do to also keep the momentum of the business and the big ideas, and knowing it's all for the bigger picture, but is scary to lean in and treading in uncharted waters? For example, how to get rid of the nerves in making bold moves and changes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay. So here's the thing, right? ultimately, why are we doing what we're doing? It is to bring this amazing, brilliant, big, bold vision that we have to life, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's very impact driven. Sometimes it's very personal driven. Like sometimes it's like outward impact. Sometimes it's personal, like inward impact driven. But
Mhm.
typically that's why we're here. We're not just here to replace a job with our own job, right? That's not what it's about. And sometimes we can lose sight of that, or sometimes we can feel such pressure to be bringing in revenue right now. And I know like this year, the past few years have been a little weird, but this year's been especially challenging for a lot of businesses. And people are in some weird places and buying patterns have shifted. A lot of businesses aren't quite sure what to do, or they're seeing their revenue dip and it gets a little scary. And when you get to that place, sometimes you can lose sight of the vision or lose focus on the vision because you almost end up in that reactive, like, I need to make money now. What can I do now mode? And the best thing you can do for yourself is always have a blend of long-term and short-term things. Like when you are in a place where you've got to make payroll, or whether that's paying yourself or paying your team or whatever it is, you have to do what you have to do now. But you always want to be thinking of, keeping in mind, and doing things to support where you want to go next, because otherwise you end up on the revenue roller coaster that you mentioned earlier, Jennifer. Because if you're dependent on something now, then you're always dependent on something now. You live kind of launch to launch, which is an entrepreneur's version of paycheck to paycheck. It's like whatever, every sales call, everything ends up so critical that you're like hanging everything on that and hoping that it goes well because you're not sure what you're going to do otherwise. And that's such a scary place to be. And I find most people that get to that place spend too much time focused on the short term and not enough time balancing that with the long term. And the things you sell today typically are actually selling the thing tomorrow instead of today. Like a lot of times people will do a launch and they're like, I'm going to close 20 people. But it's not, the people who joined aren't the people who usually just found out about you. They're the people that have been circling and following you for a while. So the people who just found out about you might join the next time or the time after or the time after. And so it's like having that longevity in mind. And I think all of that is being rooted in your vision. And to get to your specific question, I think it's reminding yourself that the things that you're doing now will pay off and will take you there if you keep doing them. Now, you want to keep tweaking and adjusting and experimenting and finding what's working, but you don't want to abandon and throw something out until you've given it the right time.
Thank you. And I'll also add in, I always think of the idea of planting the seeds, right? So what you're planting today is not what you are experiencing today. It's what you will be experiencing down the road, whatever that sales cycle looks like for you. That could be 30 days or 90 days down the road. But you keep planting, knowing, and a big question I get often is about, how have you built your business and what are you doing that works? And the number one thing I can say, and I believe this 1000%, is that success is on the other side of where most people give up. Most people say it's not working, they get scared, they give up, they go a different route. And I think that there is something to be said for consistency and persistence, holding that vision. And I like what you said about you've always want to like make adjustments as you go, but really understanding your why and staying laser focused there. Thank you. Okay, I love this. We've not gotten this before. We have an anonymous attendee. I didn't know you could do that. So guys, feel free to do that if you have questions that you don't want to share with everyone. Um, any recommendations for technology solutions that you have used to help simplify? Man, did you ask the right person? She's got lots of recommendations.
Don't I ever. I actually right now am just launching a program called Simplify and Scale with AI because in all honesty, I think that AI gives us an opportunity that we have not previously had as much access to. AI has been around for a long time. It's just kind of getting its day in the sun right now. We've been automating, we've been doing a lot of things for a long time, but right now things are moving so quickly that things that you wish were possible today are absolutely possible tomorrow. And it's kind of an exciting time, but most people get so overwhelmed because there's so much coming and so much that you can do. It's hard to sort through and figure out what tools do I use? What tech do I use? What makes sense? What's safe? What's secure, right? And so there's just so much of it. So what I would say to you is when you look at your tools, I actually run my business pretty lean. I have multiple businesses. I have pretty big businesses, and I run my tools and technology pretty lean. I do everything project management related in Monday.com. I love Monday, huge Monday fan. I do all my brainstorming in Miro. So I have like a few core tools that I use all the time. And then I've really taken to leveraging AI to support my operations and how I run things in the business to simplify things down. I not only use them to create systems and SOPs and processes, but I've trained my team to do that. I have a tagline that I say, don't ask me, ask ChatGPT, because it rhymes and they remember. And I've trained them to think about how to leverage the custom GPTs that I built where they're really talking to me, but they're talking to me through an AI tool. So they can ask them without asking me. And so I think there's so much opportunity. So anything that you can do to look in your business at where do you feel your biggest gaps are when it comes to tools or technology, or what is your biggest wish list when it comes to tools and technology? Like my life would be so much simpler and more streamlined if I could just do this, and then find the right solution that's out there for it, leveraging AI. Because in the end, I feel like everything is heading in that direction. And the more that we can automate that doesn't need to be done by a human, the more space we have for the things that really should be done by a human.
Absolutely agree. And it can't, I mean, I certainly have been kind of had that analysis paralysis because there's so many options for platforms out there. And, I'd rather use one tool than three. So if there's something that's a multi-function, amazing. So thank you for that. It's something that I get so excited about shiny objects, but then you don't use it the way you think you're going to or as frequently, or you're not using all of the features that could really, really help. So what I've done also is using like the tutorials and the YouTube videos of like the hacks for those
Mhm.
technology sites as well, that other people have cut corners that you can now take advantage of.
Yeah.
Another great question. Are there any podcasts, books, or resources you recommend to people and companies in the early stage of their solopreneur journey? Please get out a pen. Go ahead.
Oh gosh. Well, I will say honestly, to me, one of the best books that I've ever read. It is one of the only books that I will read over and over and over again.
Yes, yes.
Big leap. I mean, to me, that was such a game changer for me. Like, as entrepreneurs, we frequently are good at a lot of different things. And even if we weren't good at a lot of different things before we started being an entrepreneur, you kind of have to be good at a lot of different things because in the beginning, until you have the right team to support you, you kind of have to figure it all out and do a lot of things yourself. So we naturally get good at or start good at a lot of different things. And I think it's really easy for us to confuse the things that are our zone of excellence with our zone of genius. And that can keep us from doing the things that we really, really do that will lead to us having that rich, fulfilled life that I mentioned. And so if I just gave you one recommendation, it would be The Big Leap. And I reread it over and over and over again because
Mhm.
every time I read it, I mean, like we change, we evolve as
Yeah.
humans and in our experience, but I get something different out of it every time I read it. So I know I could go on and on and on and on, but I'm actually going to just give you one action instead of all the actions because that is the thing that for me was very impactful. So I hope it is for you as well.
I love that book. I've read it multiple times. Every time I read it, it's like exactly the right time for me to read it. So I totally agree. And I would just add that, focusing on your personal development is just as important as your professional development and skills. Really focusing on mindset and uncovering your stories and learning untruths that you've told yourself your whole life that come from people that may have been well intentioned, but really did not set you up for success with some ill advice. Um, you know, So I would just say to really look at it along the lines with the Big Leap. I love like Dan Sullivan as well for
Oh yeah,
that mindset and strategy.
right.
Um, I'm right now in the middle of The Gap and the Gain, which is, again, I've
So,
read it, I think 3 times, and every time it's the right time for me to read it.
mhm.
Um, and so I love those books as well. If there are no other questions, I will ask you one more that has come up for me as you were talking about scaling, delegating, which you didn't really say. The title of the book is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. It's an incredible book, and it's on Audible also.
Mhm. It's really good.
Great book. Um, you don't really talk about delegation, but you talk about team and moving things along. And I think that's a nuance that I noticed about you. So I'd love to hear your thoughts there. But
Yeah.
also, so I have so many tasks, right? I know this exercise. You've shown me this. It is super, the chalk exercise is so valuable. And I love that you say do it every 30 days because that makes a lot of sense. But when you're having your team do things and then they're maxed out and you're trying to run a lean team, maintain and increase profitability, how do you balance all of that? There's so much I'd love to take off, but we have a lean team and client delivery is really our biggest focus and priority, obviously. So, how do you prioritize?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And one of the things that I always say is as long as you have a team, which you do, right? The fact that you have a lean team is amazing because a lot of people have very bloated teams. And the answer is actually in aligning people to the right things to do. But when you already have a lean team and you're really careful with what your team does, which you do, so you don't have a lot of cycles for them to be able to take something new on, it would require either bringing in somebody different or reimagining how they do things, right? When you're in that place, which you're in, which is great, I always like to involve the team in the discussion of how could we do this? Because sometimes through our lens, we only see things able to be done a certain way, but through their lens, they have a different idea. And they're like, well, right now we're doing this, but I don't think we need to. I've had team members come to me before and say, you know, you have me doing this, but you realize there's this tool over here that does it, right? And I'm like, no, if I knew there was a tool that did it, I would have had you use the tool. Now I know. And
Oh my
so
gosh.
I think that sometimes we want to, right? Our team members are the expert at what they do. And they tend to look to us a lot as the expert in the business, as the visionary. And so they frequently can ask us and take direction from us. But the places where I find it's most valuable to take direction from our team is in the efficiency and expansion conversation. Like paint the vision, approach it from a visionary
Right,
perspective. Here's the things that we want to do next in the business. Here's what we want. The only way we could do this, we could bring in this much more revenue and bring on another person, or maybe we can get really innovative and find a way to do this with this existing team. What do you got? And I find like inevitably my team comes back with something that I never thought of.
right.
So,
They want to be efficient too, right?
of
I
course.
mean, they don't want to be working endless hours, and it's the same for the team as well as keeping them efficient to keep them in their zone of genius as well. I love that. That's such a great idea.
Yeah. And I
Um,
would say always
I'm going to
dial.
start doing that on our team calls. That's going to be part of every week on our team call is bringing up one new, area.
So, one of the things that I do in our team calls all the time, and I think that this is a really valuable question to ask, is we always do the like general questions, but then we always have one overarching goal for the 90-day period that we're in. And the final question everybody answers is what are they doing that week to contribute towards that goal? And so that ends up being a super valuable thing because it keeps people focused on why they're doing the things that they're
Mhm.
doing and how they contribute to where the business is going. But also, I think you could add in the question of, and how is what I'm doing or what can what I'm doing be made more efficient or be done in a different way to create space? And so I think if you just like ask that, I always ask the question, how can what we're doing be done? What is it? I say it all the time. I say it so often, I can't remember what I say. How can this be simpler and still provide the same or better results?
Right. Right. It doesn't have to be done this way just because it always has been, right?
Yeah.
Disruptors. I love this.
So
Thank you, Krista. Thank you so much for being here. I love any chance I get to spend time with you and to be able to share you with everyone today. And I'm so grateful for your time and your expertise and all of the nuggets of wisdom that you have imparted on me over the years. So thank you so much. And for your friendship. You're such a good friend and just truly care about the people around you. And it just shows very deeply. Um, Guys, next week we have Danielle Margraf presenting. She will be talking to us about somatic healing. She focuses on money mindset and raising our vibration, but really healing through somatic exercises to heal our money stories and our bodies. It is phenomenal information. I really hope you guys can join. It's something I've really been learning about and paying attention to and getting very, very intentional about lately. And so I really wanted to share this with you all. I hope you can join us. Krista, to get in touch with you, we have all of the information in the chat, you guys. So please go to the chat, click on any of those links to reach her. We've got my information there too, if you have questions for us. But thank you again for your time. And I hope you just have the very best day. So you are the best.
thanks so much for having me. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.